Hello everybody, Ishan Datta here from HashedIn Technologies. I want to invite you to a very interesting video podcast today. The agenda for this video podcast is a very interesting topic these days, right? So there is one thing which is exploding more compared to Bangalore traffic, and that is data, right? Very few things which beat Bangalore traffic, and one of those is data. Data is revolutionizing all the industry, all the companies. Now that there is unstructured data coming into place, it has opened various type of avenues which were not there previously. On that note, I would like to introduce one of the two biggest experts in the industry, Mr. Nikhil Mathur.
Thank you for having me here.
Sure. And Mr. Sripathi Krishnan.
Thank you.
So, Nikhil Mathur has been a veteran in the industry of data analytics and AI/ML. Currently, a partner lead for AI/ML with AWS, and we have Shri here, who's the CTO, Chief Technology Officer of HashedIn Technologies. On that note, I would like to start our video podcast. My first question goes out to Nikhil. Nikhil, how do you feel the outlook of data and analytics in a country like India, which is emerging, is currently?
Right. So India is undergoing a data and mobile revolution with more than 1.2 million connected devices and on average 8.3 GB data usage per month. India is, I'm sure you'll be aware, it's the third largest startup market in the world.
Right.
Second largest ISV market in the world with more than 19,000 startups. And in a span of 5 years, we have traversed ourselves from being a sparsely connected to a hyper-connected digital economy.
Correct.
If you look at data analytics per se, the market opportunity in 2019 was $3 billion, and it's expected to double to $6 billion by 2025, growing at an average cumulative average growth rate of 12.5%.
Oh, okay. I think that's a very good insight from Nikhil, and I would like to jump on to Shri here to get his views on what do you think is the future for data analytics in a country like India?
So, I think India has so many different companies which are innovating in the space of data, right? All the startups and HSR, we're blessed with all of these startups. I think data is a fundamental part of delivering in a company, right? One of the things that I feel India is doing great is because we're starting from a ground zero, right? We didn't have the legacy mainframes that all these companies have, right? So I think being able to capture data, we are very ahead in the mobile revolution. So capturing data as well as processing, a lot of it I feel that India has left the West behind in terms of just using the cloud and using it to an advantage because you didn't have any of the legacy systems. So I feel that all the new processes, systems, startups, tools that are being developed, data is front and foremost over there.
Right.
So that's...
Yeah, I think that is a very good input, Shri. So just jumping a little deep dive on this, right? So Nikhil, what do you think so data and analytics is a whole umbrella of a term, right? So what are the various trends that you are seeing in space of data and analytics?
Yeah, that's a good question. So in the last 5 to 7 years, there are 3 major trends which we are seeing.
Yeah.
We are seeing a lot of connected devices, different kinds of data sources. Data is now coming from social media, Twitter feeds, and which is where data is getting generated like never before.
Right.
So that's the first trend we see.
Sure.
The second trend we are seeing is now with cloud coming into picture, for anybody to do analysis on top of data, they don't have to worry much about what data to store and what not to store.
Right.
As the cost of storage has come down.
Right.
So that's the second trend. The third trend is now with again cloud coming into picture, customers can pay for what they use.
Right.
And they can analyze data in a variety of ways. Again, driving down the costs,
Right.
which is where we're seeing data analytics not just being used by companies to derive insights, but also companies are increasingly using data analytics for uh, forecasting, recommendations, increasing their top line revenue growth, consolidating their bottom line, and enhancing customer experience.
Right. On a follow-up question, Nikhil, so how is AWS trying to keep up with these key trends?
Right. So we at AWS in India, we've been growing our teams, and again to cater to the Indian market, we launched our own region in 2016, uh, which is where now we have a lot of banks and enterprises also moving to the AWS cloud. Uh, we have teams now to support customers in this data analytics journey, and there's a vibrant partner ecosystem and partners like HashedIn who are helping us, uh, guide our customers and help them innovate.
Sure. I think on the term of vibrant partners, I would like Shri to tell us that how is HashedIn planning to tackle all these key trends which are going on?
Yeah, so I'd like to add on a little bit to what was said earlier, right? So I think one of some trends that I'm seeing, right? Um, so what has happened in the technology space is that storage and compute have separated out, and this is a very major trend in the analytics space. So it's much easier to store using things like S3, and compute was always available. But what data analytics and things like Redshift have enabled, you've got massive compute now available, and storage is different. So even if you have a lot of data, you don't necessarily have to store it into a traditional database for you to process it. So you're separating out compute and storage, which has led to a lot of cost reduction. At the same time, the ability to store a lot more data.
Right.
So that's one big trend. The other I think I'm seeing is a lot of streaming use cases have come up. So Kinesis and managed Kafka related things, right, are having a lot more, finding a lot more applications. We're seeing a trend where a lot of real-time data processing is happening. So analytics, instead of doing a traditional data warehouse, people are now trying and opting to do it more real-time to make enable real-time decision making and analytics.
Right.
So those are some of the trends that I am seeing. A third one I would say is a lot more on the video processing, right? And traditionally we've had these IoT sensors, but a video camera can essentially replace 10 different sensors. With a video feed and live processing of that, you can do the work that 10 different custom made sensors were doing.
Right.
So video based analytics is seeing, at least I'm seeing a major shift towards doing video based surveillance, video based analytics, video based compliance, a lot of use cases in the industry space.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good point, Shri. So Nikhil, a follow-up question to you, right? So we know that there are key trends which the customers should adopt, but there are a lot of challenges which these customers face, in terms of their pain points, in terms of their execution, in terms of their implementation. So what do you think what are the key major pain points or challenges which customers face these days in adoption of data and analytics?
Right. So data quality is one challenge which we see, and analytics is as good as the data you do analytics on.
Correct. Yeah.
Well, when we go to enterprises, we see enterprises not being able to adopt some of the new age technology because they have heavily invested already in data centers. There's a huge technical debt they have. There are lack of skills, resources to be able to help them on this data journey, which is where I think we at AWS and again our partner ecosystem, we feel are super excited to see how we can help customers with this journey. So while on one side you may say these are the pain points, but I also see this as a great opportunity.
Right. So what about HashedIn, Shri? Right. So I'm sure HashedIn is doing a lot of data and analytics work, right, with our customers. So what are those challenges which customer face in terms of implementation, executing, etc.?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge enterprises and a lot of our customers have is data fragmentation. There's been a proliferation in tools and custom-made applications as well as off-the-shelf applications that enterprises are using. All of them have different data formats, different databases, and the power is in bringing them all together, right? As well as competition data sources, right? So, how do you bring that all together? I think the data silos is a big problem that, in my opinion, enterprises and I feel that is contributing towards the quality of data that we're seeing, right?
Yeah.
So I feel that's a big challenge that customers are facing.
Okay, sure. Okay, let's jump back. Let's understand a very common myth, right? So Nikhil, maybe you can take this up first, right? So AI and ML has been used very continuously and interchangeably, right? So why don't you throw us some light on what to use when?
Sure. Look at Amazon. We've been using AI for the last 20 years, right? Our Amazon, when you go and shop at Amazon.com, and if you've purchased in the past, there are recommendations which are given to you because you've purchased this. Why don't you try these? Now that recommendation is powered by AI technology, right? Similarly, we're seeing a lot of applications of AI, and AI is that field of computer science which is helping mimic the human brain. And on our point on what is ML and how is it different from AI, so ML is a subset of AI.
Okay.
Where you are making a machine learn on its own, take decisions on its own, build that logic by itself.
Sure.
And increasingly now we're seeing customers leverage both AI and ML,
right,
to solve real business problems.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's a very important differentiation which people really don't understand, right? So, a follow-up question to Shri here, right? So, once the customer understand what AI and what ML is, yeah. So, I'm sure it depends on the maturity of a customer. Then, when should it be applied, right? So, can you tell us that when is a customer ready to apply AI and ML?
So, AI and ML, I feel it's like the tip of the iceberg, right? To be successful in applying AI and ML to your business, right? I think you need three constituents have to come together, right? One is you need the whole infrastructure to get data from all of your different places into a clean, aggregated and normalized manner, which is your golden data set or your reference data set, on which you can actually do some processing of work, right? So you need somebody to get that data, which I broadly call it as data engineering, right?
Right.
Just making sure that the hygiene of data is there. Then you need the business domain, right? So you need the business, like you gave the example of Amazon. You needed somebody to have that insight that how can you cross sell, how can you upsell, right? So whatever is your domain, you're trying to solve a particular business problem. You need somebody with the business domain insight to guide that direction on what analysis can you do on top of data, right? And the third, which is the more important, which is the part which is the data scientist. So you really need people with the background in stats, maths, sciences. These are people who have very good understanding of data modeling and statistics and tools in this area to be able to take the data, to understand the business domain, combine that all together, try out models, create experiments, create hypotheses, then disprove them, and repeat that. Right. So that is the third part is a discipline which is more about running experiments and proving them, disproving them, and then keep on iterating till you arrive at something which is better than what was there previously. Right. So all of these three things have to come together, and I feel that customers ignore the other. And even if you have a small data not clean, you expect ML or AI to do wonders, and that really can't happen unless all of these three come together and work towards solving that business problem.
Right.
So,
Sure.
at least.
Sure. Yeah, I think now that we've spoken about what it takes to implement data and analytics and AI ML, let's talk about some key use cases from customers. Maybe Nikhil, you can talk from AWS perspective. So what would be the key use cases that you would want to throw some light on?
Sure. Look, we're seeing application of data analytics and AI ML across industry verticals, be it BFSI, manufacturing, retail, CPG, healthcare. A few which come to my mind. One of our referenceable customers is Vistara. All right. Now, all these airlines, they want to cut down on their operational costs, right?
Right.
So we sat with Vistara and we sat with their board of directors and figured out how is it that we can help them improve their revenues and cut down on their operational costs.
Right.
And the operational costs have been spiraling because of increased fuel costs. There's a lot of uncertainty there, right? So we ended up helping them with route profitability analysis.
Oh, okay.
Saying which airlines Vistara should fly from what sector to which sector and at what time.
Okay.
Which made a lot of sense to them because it's directly contributing to
Sure.
their revenue growth and helping them cut down on the cost.
Sure.
Another use case which comes to my mind is Jubilant FoodWorks. It's an enterprise customer. Domino's. They took an ambitious call saying, hey, look, if we can't deliver pizzas in 30 minutes, they would return the pizzas, but they wanted to cut down that time further. Saying, can we do it in 20 minutes?
Yeah.
Now to do that, they created a data lake using AWS to get real-time insights into their operations.
Oh, right.
All right, and they're also now able to cut down some of the inefficient, redundant processes, but also it's helping them cross-sell, upsell.
Right.
Yes.
They're also now looking at order forecasting.
Yeah.
Interesting use case of ML, or AI comes. If you look at Shadi.com,
Right.
everybody wants to appear a Salman Khan, and those are the photos they'll paste in their biodatas.
Sure.
Which may not be obviously accurate, right?
Yeah. Right.
And Shadi.com was taking so much time to do this cleansing.
Sure.
And using image recognition, which is one of our AI services, they've now been able to cut down that time dramatically.
Oh,
making sure that the right people meet.
Right.
And of course, I can keep going on. There are use cases across BFSI, customer risk profiling, customer 360-degree analysis, insurance, HDFC Life Insurance built a data lake on AWS to kind of incentivize some of their insurance sellers.
Yeah.
Manufacturing, you have connected cars. Retail, you have personalized recommendations.
Right.
Which you want to send to customers. Frankly, a lot of use cases we're seeing in the Indian market.
Right. I think who doesn't love a pizza coming in 15-20 minutes, right? Okay, on that note, Shri, I would love to hear something from HashedIn Technologies point of view as well. That what
interesting use cases.
Yeah, what cool things they've done.
So, one of the companies that we're working with is into electricity generation, but using wind and solar. And in these markets, right, it's the generation of electricity is very much dependent on the health of the equipment as well as weather, right? Both are important factors.
Sure.
And if you can predict how much electricity will generate tomorrow, day after, 3 days, 1 week later, right? You can command a much better price in the electricity trading, right? So one of the work that we've done is to help them in this company. I can't reference the name, but to sort of get the IoT data from all of their wind farms across in real time, use the weather model that are available, and marry these two to sort of predict how much electricity would be generated. And this is used as an input when they are bidding in the pricing market, right? Because if you can predict how much electricity you generate, you are able to get much higher value for the electricity that you do. It also, so it's great as a complementary source of electricity. But
Sure.
So this is one of an interesting use cases that I think we're seeing a lot of use cases around video processing, right? And smart cities. We're working with one of the customers who are implementing smart cities. So all kinds of surveillance with videos. So those are use cases that we have seen. I think especially in the industry, right, where compliance is a huge factor.
Right.
Not wearing protective equipment or being in a risky area. If an individual, if a worker is there in an area which is where that equipment are coming and going, right? So it's dangerous for the life of the worker,
Sure.
right? So how can you detect this using video, right? The traditional solutions is more, let's give IoT sensors, let's have motion detectors, let's have this. But with the video camera, you can solve a lot of these problems by saying, is this person wearing protective equipment? Is he in an area which is designated unsafe because at this particular time? A lot of the compliance related things are being solved just by using models to detect people, to detect equipment, to detect personal safety equipment on top of a live video feed, which gives you a lot of compliance related things can be met because of that, and worker safety. So those are things that we are seeing which are interesting. Other than the use cases that you brought about in terms of e-commerce and related spaces.
Sure. I think who knew a video camera can save lives, right? I mean, till the time we've known in this industry, it's only used for Snapchats or Twitter or Insta.
No, I think video camera is, you should think about it as it can replace several different IoT sensors.
Right.
And if you have the right video processing on top of a video feed, you can actually get a lot more insight.
Sure.
And, a lot more analytics can be done on top of it.
I think that sounds lovely. I mean, we are a little short on time, and I think we should end it right now. And it was really great to talk to such biggies of the industry. And I would really like to thank you for joining this video
Thank you,
session.
Ishan.
Thank you.
Thank you.